Presidents Biden and Zelensky will emerge from their private White House meeting to speak with reporters. We're going to bring you that joint news conference live. After that, all eyes will turn to Capitol Hill, where President Zelensky is set to address a joint session of Congress tonight. The speech comes as lawmakers weigh approving more than $40 billion in aid for the war. Joining me now is Democratic Congressman Mike Quigley of Illinois, a member of the House Intelligence Committee and co-chair of the Congressional Ukraine Caucus. Thanks so much for being with us. Let's talk about this additional aid. I think it's $43 billion that's being considered in this omnibus. Any idea if there's going to be a holdup, or do you expect it to pass?
Look, I'm optimistic we'll get the omnibus done. It will be a part of that package. The Senate sometime tonight and the House sometime tomorrow, or at the latest the next day.
All right, so you're confident this $43 billion in aid, is this the last chunk of aid that's going to be coming from Congress for some time, or do you think that the Republicans will get on board in the future?
I think the reason you're seeing a package this large is because there is some concern that with the transition and uncertain leadership on the House side, that something wouldn't necessarily be there. This is obviously a great deal of money and should be able to get us through a very tough winter in Ukraine with the war going on and on into the next fiscal year. So I'm hoping it takes us there, and I'm hoping that President Zelensky's speech tonight will remind all of my colleagues just how important the aid is.
What's your argument for continuing to support Ukraine?
You know, it's Katie, I've been here 14 years. This is one of those rare, exciting and historical moments tonight. It reminds me of another historical moment when FDR gave his last inaugural, and he's speaking to the same point, right? The war, the Second World War and this war have some of the same basis and reasons for fighting. And he said, what we have learned is that we cannot live alone. Our security is dependent on the security of others. He quoted Emerson saying, he reminded us that if you want to have a friend, you've got to be one. So we're reminded that President Putin's designs aren't just on Ukraine, it's on Eastern and Central Europe. And the rest of the world is watching, including Beijing, with designs on Taiwan. How united will the West be, and particularly the United States?
What is the difference between having President Zelensky address Congress virtually, which he has done in the past, and having him be there in person tonight?
There's an energy in the room that transcends the moment. It's fascinating. I was with President Zelensky in Kyiv in July, and meeting with him and his advisors about that war effort. It's as close to, again, that parallel with the Second World War, my generation being with Churchill during the Blitz, that charisma, that leadership. It's hard to miss. It's hard to avoid in your heart that, you know, when we deal with these things, it is not just our mind knowing it's the smart thing to do for our country and our world, but it's also the right thing to do. I stood on a mass grave in Bucha, and I was reminded that what we always learned about the Second World War and the genocide that took place there is we promise never again. Tonight's a moment when we remember that we cannot let that happen again.
If I might channel some Americans out there who are feeling squeezed, certainly this holiday season, by inflation, by a recession that might be coming. What do you say to them when they say, I don't understand why we can send all this money to Ukraine, but I'm not getting the help that I need here?
Look, this country can do more than one thing at a time. I think when we passed the Inflation Reduction Act, we took a good step in that direction. We're starting to see some of this pay off. We're starting to see gas prices go down. There's much more that needs to be done at home. Let's again remember our history. FDR fought this war in the middle of a depression. So obviously there's needs at home. We're not disregarding that. We're fighting that battle as well. But at the same time, it's in our own best interest to take care here, because Putin isn't just concerned about Ukraine. He is concerned with much more of that. And the threats there involve simply the potential attack on a nuclear power plant that, if that goes badly, can take out much of Europe. So our interests are involved and it's also who we are as a country. That has some value as well.
I will point out that the war effort for FDR during World War II and during the Depression here did create a lot of jobs because of everything we built here and sent overseas. Congressman Mike Quigley, thank you very much for joining us today. Appreciate it. And coming up next, we're tracking what's